Hey everybody, I want to welcome everybody to this new quarantine edition of Strange Appalachia. Um, since the coronavirus has apparently taken everything over, we'll decided we were going to go ahead and sit down and shoot an episode out real quick. Um, I think tonight we're going to cover a couple of sayings from the Appalachian area. The first one is one that I know I've heard a whole lot from and still hear a lot of, and that saying is that the first thunder in March will wake the snakes up.
Definitely one that is common in the area, and at the very least, common in our family. Growing up, I heard mom and dad say it a lot, and it's an interesting saying, and it probably ends up being timing wise correct more often than it's wrong. Although the direct link between the two doesn't really exist. There's obviously no correlation between thunder and snakes waking up.
Yeah, actually, most snakes are deaf. They can sense vibration, especially through the ground, and that's one of the ways they know how to avoid predators. And but they actually can't hear anything. They don't have ears.
Yeah, they don't hear necessarily in the same way that we hear. They do hear, like you mentioned, through vibrations and things like that. But actually hearing things like we think of the word hearing things, they don't have that sense. So on that same note, though, the thunder, obviously, it comes with somewhat of a shaking associated with it. Sometimes, something like that may, like you get a really large clap of thunder, and it shakes your house or shakes your windows. Something like that, the snake might feel. But as far as it being something that absolutely happens every single time, definitely not in that category.
Well, it's one of those things. It's extremely practical knowledge. The settlers in the area, the mountain people in the area, they would have been hyper aware of snakes. And actually, there's an unhealthy fear of snakes almost everywhere. And so it's one of those things that would help to remind them, hey, there are poisonous snakes out. And in fact, it's something that I tell my son. It'll be March, and I'll hear thunder, and I'll say, hey, first thunder in March will wake the snakes up. And it'll settle into him just like it settled into us. Around springtime, around March, you need to be more aware of snakes, I think.
And at the same time, you're talking about settlers being aware of snakes coming out because they represent a danger. Same thing with storms. They're going to be hyper aware of when these thunderstorms are rolling in because that can definitely bring destruction with it, as we've seen, this year with tornadoes and things through more down towards your area than here in southwestern Virginia. But that's definitely something that they're going to be aware of as well. And on that same note, in case anybody was wondering, the first thunder in March this year was on March 1st. So snakes got an early start this year, according to that.
Yeah, and they probably froze to death right after that if they woke up because we had a lot of cold weather that came out shortly after those thunderstorms.
And luckily, they're reptiles, so they don't get most mammalian diseases. They're probably safe right now from the coronavirus.
Yeah, so wash your hands.
That's exactly right. We've made mention of that a couple of times here tonight. This coronavirus thing, it's impacting people all across the country. But if as a person who looks at this somewhat logically, I would like to just encourage people: wash your hands, stay in if you feel sick. Use your brain just a little bit.
Yeah, in my experience, you probably don't need 15 pounds of hamburger meat.
Or 30 packs of toilet paper.
Probably not. Yeah, I work in retail, so that's one of those things I see just about every day so far.
I would say use your common sense, but I've determined that common sense isn't so common anymore. So use your
No,
brain.
it doesn't happen like you'd want it to.
Not at all.
All right, so what's our next saying?
Yeah, so the next saying is, I don't know that it's necessarily a saying so much like the other one is, but it's a superstition. And this superstition states that if you go to somebody's funeral, you attend a funeral, you should take a different path from the funeral back to your house. Because if you take the same route that you got to the funeral on your way back, then the ghost or the spirit of the person uh, that is being buried is going to have the ability to follow you home.
Yeah, this one comes from an Irish belief and a Scottish belief of the same thing. They would take different paths home, and since Scottish and Irish and Scot-Irish settlers are predominantly in the Appalachian Mountains, or a lot of them are in the Appalachian Mountains, then that belief came with them directly. So it's one of those things that I have always done, and I probably will continue to do.
Right. You know, I've always done it, growing up around you, hearing this stuff. So that's something that I've taken away from that. But one thing you'll notice is if you start digging deep into these superstitions, there's a lot of these superstitions that revolve around funerals or rites of the dead people, type of thing. Another one you'll see very often associated with that is covering up mirrors in the house with cloths, normally black cloths, because if there's a mirror in the house, then the soul of the dead person could get trapped in them or get confused and not be able to find their way out. So a lot of this, these superstitions revolve around what to do with a person or how to treat a person who has passed on.
Yeah, many times there would be two doors on a home, and we still have this, a front door and a back door. But a lot of times houses would have two front doors. And if you were having a wake where you stayed up all night with the dead, or a lot of times it was the dead was laid out for 3 days before it was buried, and people would spend the entire time. There would always be somebody awake around the body. And as people came and went, they would go into one door, they would view the body or sit and wait, and then they would leave through a different door. And it was once again the same thing. It was meant so that the spirit wouldn't linger and that the spirit couldn't figure out, entrances and exits, because they believed it would be kind of confusing to wake up dead. And so, the spirit's looking for things that are familiar to it. And that's where that comes from, a different path home, a different way into the house and out of the house. And I only got to attend one wake in my entire life, and I was little. I was really young. I was probably 3 or 4, and I don't even remember who we went to. But Mom had went to the wake, and the two things I can remember were being scared, and then after that passed, being bored. And honestly, I don't remember anything else. Apparently, the adults around me, I can remember a lot of talking, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. And so this is one of those traditions that's kind of fallen by the wayside. You don't see it anymore because modern technology allows us to identify people who are dead easier than they would have, 100 years ago.
Yeah, to sort of expand on what Charlie just said there, with the making it easier thing. One of the common reasons to have a wake in the past was, you get somebody that's been sick and they get really, deathly ill, but then they make a recovery, a day or two later. And, in the pioneer days, especially in our area, even past the pioneer days, maybe even more into modern history, we haven't had the greatest of medical technologies. So this sitting up with the dead, occasionally, and I don't imagine that it happened very often, but occasionally you could probably find reports or accounts of the dead coming back in that fashion because they never really died. They were just close. And then they made a recovery. Whereas today, most of the time, if somebody's declared dead, um, very, very, very rarely is somebody able to come back, or misidentified as dead. I guess is the best way to phrase that.
Yeah, the funeral rites of the Appalachian Mountain, there's a lot of them that kind of pull from everywhere. I know one of the big ones is that they're buried as soon as possible, and I mean that's just practicality. They don't want the body to linger around because a lot of times, there's a death and disease thing that kind of can go along with anyone that's dead, but there's also the other hygiene stuff and the smell, and so as soon as possible. And I'll tell you one of the most interesting ones, or not interesting, but one of the most recent ones was Andy Griffith. When he died, he was interred very quickly.
Yes. Well,
So
I was going to say, you got anything else you want to throw in there on death rites or anything like that?
no, I think that we covered it with the kind of covered what we were wanting to go over, and actually a little bit more. So
Yeah. Well, guys, if I could get my speech together here, sort of a short episode tonight. We just wanted to cover those two myths and sayings. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some more of these coming out here soon. I'm also going to be working here in the next couple of days, maybe next week or so, on maybe trying to get a blooper episode together. Because if you all haven't noticed yet, Charlie and I are both pretty big goofballs. So you get both of us trying to create, a video or something. There's definitely going to be bloopers, and we got some pretty good ones. And to go along with that, I'm going to try to get up into the woods and get another episode shot on scene with just myself. Since Charlie's not able to come in, but we'll try to get some more content up here in the next week and a half or so, because you guys are as bored as we are. So hopefully we'll be able to give you at least a little bit of content to listen to and enjoy, and maybe even watch.
yeah, I know we were going to do some investigation up at the school. And that's kind of fell through now that they've pretty much canceled everything on at the school, so we're not going to get to investigate that. Um, so we're going to try to do some stuff up next time I get a chance to go up there with JD. I know we're going to try to spend some times up around the field, um, up above the house, because there's a lot of weird, strange stuff that goes on up there. It'd be awesome to be able to get some stuff on camera and film, see what we can find up there. I know, didn't you recently just take a trip up there?
I did. Went up there last week to try to actually shoot this episode that I was talking about, and had some camera issues again. But while we were up there, normally there's a lot of animal sign all over the place. It had been raining a lot, so a lot of the sign that's typically there as far as scat and tracks had been washed away. But we did find one very, very nice set of what appeared to be feline tracks. So top of a mountain, this feline's walking across. There's no houses or anything anywhere nearby. So I'm going to bet this thing was a bobcat or a feral house cat at the very least. Um, it looked kind of small to me to be a bobcat or even a mountain lion, which I highly doubt that it was. But it was definitely an interesting find, and it was the only thing I saw while we were up there that was remarkable, other than deer tracks, which are everywhere.
Yeah,
So, hoping to get back up there and get that shot. Tell some of the stories that you and I have experienced while we've been camping up there. Even though most of the places you can't get to where we were at anymore because it's been grown up, and sort of nature's been allowed to take back over. But we can get pretty close, and I can talk about some of the stuff, I hope, and we'll go from there.
yeah, I know we found large cat prints up there before, and we found large cat scat up there before. Um, and once again, I can't tell you if it's bobcat or mountain lion, but it's something bigger than house cat.
Yeah, these tracks I found this time were definitely the size that it could be a house cat. It's just the area doesn't lend itself very well to being a house cat because there's no houses around.
Yeah, if cats go feral, they can be anywhere.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to add in before we sign off here?
That about does it.
All right, guys. As always, I want to urge you to like and subscribe. Let us know if you've got any ideas for us to check out. If you've got a story that you're willing to do an interview about, anywhere that you could let us come investigate. We'd love to hear your stories. We'd love to come see what's out there. If you know a story you'd like to hear us talk about that we haven't, shoot us a comment on Facebook. Leave one here on YouTube. Or if you know us personally, contact us. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, I want to throw one more plug out there real quick.
Go for it.
Our buddy Bill Lancaster, you can look him up, Darth Bill. He just dropped his third movie in his Bigfoot trilogy,
Yes.
Native Big, and it is excellent. It's my favorite so far of the trilogy. So I really think he's outdone himself. I really enjoy it because it has a ton of Native American myths about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. I just eat that kind of stuff up. So I really
Yes.
encourage you to go out there and pick.
Like he said, we've had the opportunity to watch this film, and it is excellently done, very well done. His first two are on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, they're free to watch. So jump in there and check those out. Cultured Bigfoot and Paranormal Bigfoot. You can find Facebook pages for all three films on Facebook there. Again, they're called Paranormal Bigfoot. I'm sorry, the first one's Cultured Bigfoot, second one's Paranormal Bigfoot, and third one is Native Bigfoot. They're all very well done. So definitely go check those out. And, I'm sure he would be more than happy to talk with you about it sometime if you see him.
Yeah, that native of Bigfoot, he traveled up into Canada and he traveled all over the U.S. I can't remember exactly how many states he said he hit, but I know he went north up into Canada and then came out in the western United States and then back down into Texas before coming back into Tennessee. So he put a lot of time and effort into it. Not saying he didn't with the other ones because he did, but I know that this one right here he put a lot of travel time in for it. So, and I was really impressed with it when I watched it.
I gotta say, I myself am partial to the second one, the Paranormal Bigfoot, because it shows sort of the two different sides of the Bigfoot debate, the paranormal side and the natural side. And I like seeing that sort of dichotomous, approach to it. But Native was definitely well done. He's got a lot of video and views in it that really show his talent as a filmmaker. So definitely go check those out.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. We'd appreciate it too.
For sure. And I guess that does it. Till next time, stay safe, stay in, keep those hands washed.
Yeah, wash your hands. Appreciate it, guys.